Week 21 Weekly Reader. Industry, communication, and transportation take the nation into a new century. Industry. The Industrial Revolution started in the United States after the Revolutionary War, and it continued during the Civil War. Shipbuilding and the iron industry were important parts of the economy. As the population of the country moved westward, agriculture, construction, and mining industries grew also. By the time Reconstruction was over, the U.S. had become one of the largest and most competitive industrial nations in the world. Before the Civil War, most people in the U.S. made their living in agricultural businesses. People owned or worked on small farms. Some worked in small family-owned businesses. After the war, industry grew much faster than agriculture. The population of the cities increased quickly, especially in the North. Immigrants from all over the world flocked to the U.S. to find work and began a better life for their families. The demand or need for goods, such as machinery and tools, also grew quickly. Factories met this demand and supplied goods using power-driven machinery both day and night. Machines now produced what had been handmade goods. Small family-owned businesses became large companies with the help of banks and investors. Investors gave money to businesses so companies could expand. Coal mining, steel production, and clothing manufacturing were all big businesses. Managers, people in charge of business, and the factories planned how the companies would operate, while workers took care of the machines. The work was often dangerous and difficult. Hard workers sometimes argued with companies to pay them better wages. They also asked for shorter working days and better conditions in which to do their jobs. The businesses made a lot of money for their owners, bankers, and investors. Many of these people became very rich. The workers, though, did not always make a lot of money. Sometimes their families lived in very poor conditions. Problems between rich business owners and poor workers made some people feel unhappy with big business. Communication. Even before the Civil War, developments in communication changed the way Americans sent and received information. In the 1830s, an American professor named Samuel F.B. Morse proved a way to use electromagnetic signals to send messages along a wire that hung between poles. President Lincoln was interested in this communication technology and sent many telegraph messages during the war. Telegraph lines stretched from city to city. Communication was much easier and faster than sending letters by Pony Express or message carriers. In the 1870s, as inventors Elisha Gray and Alexander Graham Bell worked on devices to improve telegraph service, they designed devices that could transmit speech electronically. Bell's design was patented first. The telephone uses electricity to transmit speech along wires. Wires between cities are used for voice communication. Now people in communities that were far apart could communicate easily. As the nation entered the 20th century, communication technology rapidly improved. Thomas Edison invented the phonograph, high-speed photography, film cameras, the radio, tape recordings, telephone answering machines, and motion pictures were all invented before the 20th century was even 1/4 of the way over. Transportation. After the Civil War, people began to move to different regions of the United States. Freed slaves could choose to live in the South or move to the North to work in factories. Northerners chose to either stay in their home regions or move south to farm. More and more people wanted to move west. This westward expansion was possible because of the development of the first transcontinental railroad. The first talk about the possibility of a railroad connecting both the west and east regions of the United States began in the 1830s. Settlers moved westward to build homes, farms, and communities. There had to be a way to transport goods and supplies back and forth between the East and the West. Nearly everyone agreed a railroad was needed, but they didn't all agree on the route the rails should follow. After much debate, people decided that the railroad route would follow the established Oregon, Mormon, and California trails. The line began in Omaha, Nebraska, and followed the Platte River. It crossed over the Rocky Mountains at South Pass in Wyoming, and it then went through northern Utah and Nevada. From there, the train crossed the Sierra Mountains to Sacramento, California. Workers laid more tracks to connect Denver, Colorado, and Salt Lake City, Utah, along with other cities not on the direct route. The Union Pacific Railroad built westward from Omaha, and the Central Pacific Railroad built eastward from Sacramento. After 6 years, the two lines connected at Promontory Summit, Utah. A total of 1,777 miles of track was laid across the country. Irish and Chinese immigrants, Mormons, and Civil War veterans built the rails. White men working on the rails received higher pay than the immigrant workers did. The railroads also employed blacksmiths, bricklayers, carpenters, engineers, surveyors, and cooks during the building process. Workers officially completed the railroad on May 10, 1869. It changed the United States forever. The population of the western United States increased significantly. White settlers and freed slaves moved to the western region to farm, build homes, or start businesses. Rail cars carried goods and supplies across the nation easily. Dangerous journeys west using wagons or stagecoaches were no longer necessary. Unfortunately, railroads also meant some American Indians were forced off their lands. Railroads were responsible for more changes to the country than any other technological advance of the post-Civil War era. Indeed, many historians continue to argue that railroads are the most important invention ever created.